Join me today as we talk about Alien Earth Episode 5, the flashback episode, where we have to ask ourselves important questions like, does the security guy from on board the ship have a tragic backstory? What exactly happened on board the ship? Was most of the crew completely incompetent? These and many other questions will be answered in this episode. Join me. This is the Geek Cabal channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Bobbie, and today we're going to talk about Alien Earth Episode 5. So, I'm going to do some non-spoiler stuff, and then I'll jump to the spoilers because brand new episode just came out. So, I saw this past Tuesday here on FX. Like in there on FX, like FX isn't here, because you know what I mean. So, some non-spoiler thoughts. It was nice to see how everything went to hell aboard the ship. I did not expect that. I didn't expect how things went down. Two elements to that, and I'll explain that in the spoiler section. We did get to see some of the creatures in action. Unfortunately, it's the ones that we've already seen in action. There's still other creatures that we know nothing about. Like, they keep teasing the one kind of plant-looking thing and not doing anything with it. So, still waiting.
Well, we're waiting!
We got some characterization for the people aboard the ship, most of which I felt was completely pointless. We know they all die. So we've got exactly one episode for them to be interesting characters, and they were mostly just stupid. So I'm not going to say this episode was a letdown, but this definitely feels like in a slasher movie where they make you want to watch the characters die. It definitely felt like that was going on here. And I don't know if it's directing choices or acting choices, but a couple in particular were just bad. I didn't bother to learn any of these people's names because they don't matter. They're all dead. Spoiler, in case you didn't see the first episode, only one guy survived the crash. So the person who I guess they weren't the chief scientist because something happened to them, but I guess they were one of the other science types aboard the ship. She just struck me as just grossly incompetent and just didn't quite seem to understand the importance, maybe severity, of what they're dealing with. And again, I'll elaborate a little bit on that in the spoiler section. But no, just like the way she was coming across is just like, one of these creatures cannot kill her fast enough. And so, yeah, like I said, it wasn't a letdown, but it's like some choices were made, and I don't know. I feel like they were sketchy choices.
That could have been better.
And there definitely was a moment where it's like, okay, everything that can go wrong is about to go wrong. And not just the xenomorph, like the other aliens were getting in on the act too. And yeah, so anyway, still a good episode. It just felt like if Weyland-Yutani was going to go to this expense, was going to plan a 60 some odd year mission, that they would have made sure that there was more than just the one competent person on board. I mean, the security chief seems to be the only person who's got his eye on the ball here. And yes, that does kind of strain credulity. So I can see where some complaints are going to come in on this one. I think the drinker earlier posted on X, Twitter, whatever, that how do you phrase it? If you ever wondered what it would be like to crew a starship with a bunch of people with ADHD, I think he also said, and they're morons, just watch the latest episode of Alien Earth and you'll see what happens. I don't know what they were going for here. So I'm glad these people were only in one episode, and I'm glad they're all dead because they're terrible characters. But the background, like the Weyland-Yutani, I just don't think would have set up like they would have done intensive psychological studies on these people, because it takes a certain mentality to just be able to write off everything you left behind And at least one of the characters clearly didn't even grasp that. So I don't know. It seems sketchy. That's all I'm saying. But I mean, like, other than that, assuming this was all intentional, I mean, it had to be. They're actors and they're following direction and everything. But like, you know, on the presentation front, okay, and everything still looks fantastic. I'm sure this has a huge budget. Um, the ship very much reminds you of the Nostromo. But no, I don't know. Choices were made, and I don't know if I agree with them. Is all I'm saying here.
It was a bad call, Ripley.
Uh, but there's a major reveal, which I'll explain the spoilers, and hopefully I remember everything I'm going to say that I'm going to explain because I don't write scripts for these. So if I promise something and I don't deliver, let me know down in the comments. Um, yeah, that's about all I can really say without really going into spoilers. This is pretty spoilerific here, but I will say that they do explain what happened to the ship, why it crashed, and there's a big reveal related to that, and we do get some more information about the security chief, and pointless information about the other characters because they're all dead. So that's about all the farther I can go without going into spoilers. So if you're jumping out here, which I totally understand, I still recommend the show. I think I've got some final thoughts here that aren't really spoilerific, so I'm going to go ahead and throw them in here. I think that, like several other shows that have a narrative arc, it's a mistake to view it episode by episode in terms of quality when you look at the product at the end. Because assuming, like, say you look at a movie, say you go to the theater to watch it, well, you're probably going to stick through the whole thing. I mean, you paid for it, and so unless it's just trash, and obviously so, before the end, you're not going to leave, and you're going to judge the movie as a complete product. And something like this, while clearly this chunk would be an episode, this is an episodic format, the other chunks, I think we need to see the whole narrative play out. Because this isn't like Star Trek, where it's going to be something new every week, and so we can watch a couple episodes and get the gist of how the season's going to proceed in all likelihood. Yeah, we might miss some really spectacular episode 20 episodes in, but like, if you don't like the first 5, you're probably not going to like the next 20. Assuming you're talking about a show that was made back when the seasons had that many episodes. So here, like, if you didn't like the first couple episodes, you're probably not going to like the rest of the product, so you probably tuned out. But I'm not going to say the whole thing's bad because one episode is sketchy, 1 out of 8, because that's like a part of a movie. This needs to be viewed like a movie. In fact, I really hope this gets a physical media release so that I can buy it, so I can actually watch it that way. I was supposed to find Hulu to watch it that way, but I also just want it because I own all the other Alien stuff on physical media. So anyway, so I just want to throw it out there that I think it would be a mistake to judge the whole show just because episode 5 was sketchy, because we still have 3 left. There was a couple major revelations in this one that are going to impact the rest of the show, and the show has been good up till this point. So I don't think this is representative of a dip in quality for the rest of the show. I think this is specific for this episode. So, and even there, I don't think it's a dip in quality. I just think that some poor decisions were made somewhere at some point in production. God only knows why. So, if you're bailing out here, give you my sales pitch here real quick. This is YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If actually this might not be YouTube, if you're watching this on TikTok, whatever you do over there, follow us, give us a thumbs up, something, whatever. If you are watching this on TikTok, check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot more videos over there. But anyway, so we're going into the spoiler section here. And okay, so you've been warned. You've had time to stop the video. Going into spoilers. So, yes, the security chief does have a tragic backstory. You see him at one point, about a third of the way into the episode, I think, give or take, where he's got a box full of stuff. He has a daughter, and he's got like some letters from her, and he starts flashing back. Note, this is a flashback episode, so this is a flashback within the flashback. Back to Earth before he leaves, and they're walking together on a beach, and he's telling her, hey, I'm going to be gone for a long time. When you think about how many points is somewhere in the night, the not quite nighttime yet, it's still what they call the magic hour. it's sunset, but it's still light out. And they he points to a certain part of the sky, and he's like, "I'm going to be there." Presumably, he saw a constellation that's near where he's supposed to be going. So he's going through this, he's going through his stuff, and then you see the last letter, and you have to read it to know what's going on. And it says that she died in a fire, like just a few years after he left. So he's got nothing to go back to. He only has the job, and that's probably a big reason why he's so deadly serious about everything, because this is his life now. He left his life behind, and it is now gone. This is it. So, uh, okay. So the episode opens with him being woken up from cryosleep, with second in command of security. Tells him there's been an incident, kind of brings him up to speed. And so he goes to the med lab where the captain and the science officer have been face huggered. The captain is dead because the doctor attempted to remove the face hugger, found out too late that it has highly acidic blood and it burned through the guy's throat and killed him. So the doctor initially is trying to say we, but then the woman who is some kind of scientist is over there like making funny hand gestures and faces, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I made the decision. And then the security chief is like, okay, well, we need to lock down all the other samples because that's the entire point of this mission. So we need to go make sure that everything's locked down and secure. And she's like, well, I should be here with the patient. And he's like, no, I was very clear. Go. And so, like, she's trying to avoid, she's trying to duck responsibility. She is trying to disobey orders. And then we see her later on with the samples, the other aliens, and she's conducting an experiment, feeding the kind of big tick-looking ones, kind of big long bugs that killed the two guys back in the first episode, second episode. They feed off of blood, and so they're trying to see how long they can starve them before they eat a corpse. And so they haven't fed them for weeks, and they put a dead rat in there, and they eat it. So while she's doing this, the octopus eye thing is watching her, and she looks towards it and she's like, "Take a picture; it'll last longer." And I'm just like, I mean, on the one hand, like, okay, it's a great clip. I don't think it's going to be a thing in like 200 years when the show takes place, but whatever. Um, but it's just like weirdly unprofessional, in my opinion. Like, your job is to be like the science officer, like, just be, doing important scientific research here, and instead you're insulting an alien creature that can't understand you for no one else's benefit because no one else is there. And it's like it starts kind of like hitting the glass, and it's trying to warn her. So then, while she's busy fiddling around with the other creatures, she gets distracted because the eye thing is trying to warn her, because one of them has reached out through the top of the cylinder that it's in, through a very tiny slit, and has slid a tentacle or something out, and is sliding the locking mechanism into the open position. And the eyeball is trying to warn her by hitting up against the glass. So instead, she takes it over and locks it into the wall. And what she doesn't notice is one of them crawls out, goes over to her water, and spits a whole bunch of its babies into it. So the someone else comes in, notices it, captures the thing, puts it back in, and scolds her for not putting the actual lid on the thing. And she starts making excuses. And he's like, "No, no, you didn't do it. Like, but that's it. You just didn't do it." So she's a flake, and yeah, just stupid character. We're talking like character flaws that have no purpose being in here because they're going to die. Like, we don't need this much in depth. We don't need these kind of character traits unless it's to make us want them to die. But we already know they're going to die, so I don't know what the point of it was. She just comes across like a flake. Uh, so they get that back in, and then again, she had already scolded one of the other characters. They come into the lab, and she's like, "Everything's secure. You can look there on the panel. All the lights are green. It's all," and it's just like, okay, like, I don't know what you've done in your life to make you think you're so superior to the other guy that you can just do that. Like, because so far from what I've seen in the show, you're definitely not. And so, despite going through all that, before she leaves the room, she doesn't look at the monitor, or she would have seen that the eyeball thing is not secured. As it closes on the screen, you can see it's red. It's not secured. And once she leaves the room, it starts like flinging itself at the glass to knock the cylinder over to break it so it can get loose, which it does. Um, so then they decide to put the chief science officer into cryosleep with the facehugger on him. And we see that either he hasn't been fully frozen or something, but the facehugger is still moving. So the alien is still gestating inside of him. And it busts out as the chest burster goes through it. So we have the random weirdo guy who also just like screams weirdo. Like this guy should have never passed any psych eval for any kind of long term mission like this. And he's sitting there just staring at this other woman in cryo sleep. And like they've warned him a couple times back in the first episode where it showed a little bit of the crew together. And so I honestly thought it was a droid, but he's not. And like he's just like he's just really creepy. Like again, I don't know what the point of the character is. Like yeah, they're kind of memorable for being bad characters. So, again, it's like one of these, was this really necessary? Like, this does nothing for the plot. Again, I'm just going to enjoy seeing him killed by the xenomorph, which I don't even get that satisfaction. He dies off screen. But he definitely got torn apart by the xenomorph. So, uh, yeah, things kind of progress from there. The chief eventually realizes that the ship was definitely sabotaged because the reason that the captain and the chief uh, scientist were near the eggs is because someone sabotaged the guidance system on the ship and also opened up the container with the eggs. So they went to investigate the fire, which took out the navigation system, and then they got facehuggered. So he's trying to figure out who it is because whoever it is knows where all the cameras are. And I will again props to the people doing the actual prop work. The TVs do look like 1970s TVs with crappy resolution and all. So, uh, yeah. So things kind of progress from there. The captain, she's kind of flaky. She doesn't want to call an emergency, so the security chief can actually start doing his job. The new captain, she was the first officer, and I think she was sleeping with the captain. So they things kind of progress. The main mechanic is like one of the only kind of competent people, and he basically lays it out for the chief like we were on a starship, now we're on a missile because we can't control our trajectory. And eventually that becomes now we're on an arrow because I think they ran out of fuel because of an explosion because of the saboteur. So there is definitely a saboteur. Plus they realize the xenomorph is probably growing and they need to find it quickly. Plus they know they can't shoot it because of its acidic blood because it leaked through the hull. So their problems are mounting. Then the uh, the junior apprentice to the engineer, who's not too bright, he's the one who doesn't even realize like the reason they're paying him all this money is because like they've been gone for 60 years. Like everyone he knows and loves is probably dead. So they they're trying to find the xenomorph, trying to make sure everything else is contained, and then the bodies start falling because the xenomorph starts eating people. Then they try to capture it. They got their pistols fire electric bolts, which is why in the like first or second episode, the security guy had the gun fired electric bolts that brought down the alien. So the junior guy drank the one woman's water, and eventually he like pukes up a bunch of blood, and then the medical doctor, who is reminded yet again that the protocol is anyone exposed to these alien life forms is supposed to go into cryosleep. They don't put him in there. He cuts him open, sees the little versions of these things on him, and tries to remove one. And whenever he does, it releases a deadly gas that kills him, kills the kid, kills the other scientist lady. So they all die because the doctor's incompetent. Fitting because they were all incompetent. Um, yeah, so it just comes down to the security chief, the captain, the engineer, and the saboteur, who turns out to be the chief engineer, which is a guy that I don't think we'd met up to that point. So it's kind of one of those like, okay, well, this is a betrayal from a character we don't even know. That's awesome. But anyway, He was faking cryosleep, is how he was moving around the ship without even realizing who it was. And like the weird, creepy dude who was looking at the other woman, like very cryptically gets his point across, and eventually the chief of security figures it out. Which again, this is a guy sabotaging the ship that he's on, and the guy's like, oh, "I'm going to be cryptic," instead of just telling him like who the saboteur is, or telling him how he's doing it. Like the guy can blow up the ship at any moment. Like, this is my time to be cryptic, I guess. Like again, stupid character decisions. Um, so it comes down to the three of them, and the engineer becomes the host for the eyeball alien, who they confront him, and he starts fighting them, but then he like lets out this weird noise, and it seems to summon the xenomorph. Although he then begins to fight the xenomorph. So I think the eyeball alien and the xenomorph are not friendly to each other. And reinforcing my speculation that the eyeball alien is going to try to communicate with the folks on Earth and cut some kind of deal. Um, Also, it seems like the real threat is the weird tick bug aliens, because like they let loose all kinds of young people, get them in their system, they start eating them from the inside, and they reproduce in huge numbers, and they appear to be intelligent enough to open up the container they were in. So, like, they could actually be the real problem, not the xenomorph. Then the xenomorph kills him. Then it cuts. Then we get basically the scenario that played out at the end of the first episode towards the beginning. Security chief's in there talking to the computer. Captain gets killed by the xenomorph. Then it breaks in. He seals himself in a little room and rides out the crash. So then we jump to now, which is a few days after the crash. He has gone back to Weyland-Yutani and is debriefing Miss Yutani, and basically tells her that we can get these things back, but I just need a team to infiltrate the island. She's like, well, he's agreed to arbitration, so we're going to let the courts deal with this. And she's like, my grandmother really respected you, and she said you're one of the most tenacious or most dangerous people that she'd ever met, something like that. And so as she's leaving, she tells her presumably second in command, like, give him anything he wants. So I think it's like the operation to go retake things by force is a go. So there is one kind of major reveal. The old chief engineer wasn't doing all this out of the kindness of his heart. He was going to be paid by the guy who is the head of Prodigy, the kid trillionaire. So he was in on it. He knew the ship was going to crash. All of it. He engineered the whole thing. So yeah, ship crashing was not a surprise to him. I don't know if it crashing in his territory was a surprise to him, but ship crashing was definitely not a surprise to him. So he's definitely been in on it the whole time, which means he probably also had a pretty good idea of what was on board it when he sent them in, when he sent his people and the robots in there. So yeah, now his decision to send them in seems even more sketchy. But again, this whole series is built on massive hubris from the parts of these rich people. So who knows? This is all definitely going to blow up in his face, possibly literally. So anyway, looking at next week's little preview, we're back to the main storyline. We've got 3 episodes left for everything to wrap up. So we'll see. I still strongly suspect the island gets nuked. Don't know if it'll be from orbit or not.
It's the only way to be sure.
But, even though Hicks was probably right in his assessment. But yeah, overall, this episode was a little lesser than the others, I'm not going to lie. I did think that, like, the choices on the character directions were terrible. Like, I actively wanted all of them to die except for the security chief. And maybe the head engineer, not the chief engineer who was the traitor, but the old guy. Like, he seemed to at least have a grasp of what was going on, seemed to have a good head on his shoulders, was trying to fix problems. But yeah, no, it was definitely a lesser entry. So anyway, that's don't let it detract you from watching the show. It's still a good show, but like, just if you're like seeing this video somewhere down the road and you're getting ready to think about watching this show for the first time, like, just brace yourself. Episode 5 might be a little rough. So anyway, that's all I've got to say on this. So like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know down in the comments if you've been watching the show, if you're going to watch the show once it's all out. What do you think of the show so far? If you saw this episode, what do you think of it? All that fun stuff. Um, got any theories on how it's all going to end? Anything like that. Let me know down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Sharing and commenting helps grow the channel. And I'd like to thank everyone who's helped us recently cross the 550 mark. We're actually rapidly barreling towards 600 at the moment as far as subscribers. So I'd like to thank all of you folks who have joined us and been with us all this time, and new folks and everyone else. But yeah, that's about all I've got. So just remember, space, no one can hear you scream.
Game over, man.